Medusa is a figure from Greek mythology often depicted as a monster, a creature so terrifying that just one look can turn you to stone.
But is that really all there is to her? Is Medusa truly a monster, or is she just misunderstood? When we think of Medusa, we usually think of a villain, a monster that Perseus had to defeat in order to save the day. We think of her as a snake-haired, evil being who terrorized the ancient world. And that's exactly how she's been portrayed in popular culture. But what if I told you that there's more to Medusa's story than just being a one-dimensional villain?
The traditional narrative of Medusa goes like this: she was once a beautiful maiden, one of the three Gorgon sisters. But she was cursed by the goddess Athena for her vanity, and transformed into a monster. This monster then went on to terrorize the land, until she was eventually defeated by Perseus. And that's the story we usually get, a simple tale of good versus evil. But what about Medusa's backstory? What about the circumstances that led to her transformation? Medusa's curse was a result of her being raped by Poseidon in Athena's temple, a sacrilegious act that was meant to punish Athena herself.
But Medusa was the one who paid the price, transformed into a monster as a way of punishing her for Poseidon's crimes. And that's a pretty heavy burden to carry.
She was then banished to a remote island, where she was left to live out her days in solitude.
And it's here that we start to see a more complex character, someone who's not just a monster, but a victim of circumstance. It's interesting to see how the myth of Medusa has been used to explain natural phenomena, like the existence of snakes. But what if we look at her story from a different angle? What if we see her not as a monster, but as a symbol of femininity and power?
After all, her hair is made up of snakes, animals that are associated with rebirth and regeneration. And her gaze, the very thing that can turn people to stone, can also be seen as a symbol of feminine power, a way of defending herself against those who would seek to harm her. One pivotal moment in Medusa's story that challenges the monster narrative is her interaction with Hercules. In one version of the myth, Hercules actually befriends Medusa, seeing her not as a monster, but as a tragic figure who's been wronged by the gods. And this friendship humanizes her in a way that's not often seen in popular culture.
We start to see her as a complex, multifaceted character, rather than just a one-dimensional villain.
Another example is her interactions with the hero Perseus himself. In some versions of the myth, Perseus is depicted as a brave hero who slays the monster Medusa.
But what if we see their interaction as a symbol of something else entirely? What if Medusa's death at the hands of Perseus represents the defeat of feminine power, the suppression of women's rights and autonomy?
It's a pretty powerful message, one that challenges the traditional narrative of Medusa as a monster.
So what can we take away from Medusa's story? Is she truly a monster, or is she just misunderstood?
I think it's clear that there's more to her character than just being a one-dimensional villain.
She's a complex, multifaceted figure, a symbol of feminine power and a victim of circumstance.
And it's about time we started to see her that way.